Hey runners, before we get into today's episode, I want to ask you a quick question. Have you ever wondered if your nutrition is actually helping your running or is it actually holding you back? If you want to find out, I've created a brand new free resource just for you. It's called the Runner's Fueling Audit. It's a super quick checklist that's going to help you spot the signs of underfueling, low energy availability, or where the gaps in your nutrition might be that are impacting your recovery and actually slowing you down. It only takes a few minutes to go through, and by the end, you're going to know whether or not your fueling is on the right track, or if you really need to start making some changes to the way you approach your eating so you can start to feel stronger on every run, reduce your injury risk, and actually get the results that you're training so hard for. You can grab your free copy right now by clicking on the link in the show notes. Again, this is called the Runner's Fueling Audit. It's a free downloadable resource, and it's going to give you so much clarity on how you can start fueling smarter and running stronger. All right, let's dive into today's episode. Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of the Fuel, Run, Recover podcast, where we are going to be having a little bit of a chat about a new trend that you might have seen out there in the world of fast food restaurants and coffee shops, and seems to be just popping up everywhere in the last couple of weeks. Just kind of seems like everyone's dropping this product kind of all at the same time, which is the protein lattes available commercially at some different coffee shops and chain restaurants. So the one that I was made aware of first was a Canadian coffee shop brand that we have here. It is the dominant coffee shop brand here in Canada, which is Tim Hortons. And so I heard a commercial on the radio last week, actually, for this all new Tim Hortons high protein latte. And I thought to myself, of all the things we don't really need or people don't really need, or like, what is this? What kind of gimmicky thing is this? And you have to know that back before my podcasting days, when I was doing more blogging, I used to do some regular, I'll say, dismantling of the health claims that a lot of these chain restaurants would put out there with some of the new products that they would roll out. So, they would roll out, say, for example, with Tim Hortons, it was these real fruit smoothies, which I think are still on the menu, but these real fruit smoothies made with real fruit, and, kind of give the impression that this was a very healthy, nutritious option, the same as if you were making your own smoothie at home, basically, right? It's got real fruit in it. So you can feel really good about going to Tim Hortons every day and getting this real fruit smoothie as part of your balanced breakfast, right? I think there was even a version that had a little bit of protein in it. They had a protein one that maybe had some yogurt and whatever. But anyway, when you kind of peel back the curtain and look behind these claims, you'll see that these things were actually full of just added sugar, very little fruit, if any real fruit at all, almost no nutritional value. And just something that is vastly, vastly different than what you would make if you were having a smoothie at home. These were more akin to a Slurpee than a homemade, nutrient-dense, high-protein, high-fiber smoothie that I would recommend you have for breakfast in the morning. So it's kind of put me, when I see new products on the market, restaurants, with health claims attached to the things that they're rolling out, I'm always highly, highly skeptical, right? My first gut instinct when I see anything is really? What sort of, magic wand waving did you have to do in order to create this health claim? Or what kind of creative language did you have to use in order to make it seem like it's actually a lot better than it is? However, and I was planning on doing an episode about this, kind of talking about it in sort of general terms. I figured at some point I was going to have to try one because, I can't just sit here and, mouth off about it without actually trying one. But actually, a day or two later, I found myself at a Tim Hortons as luck would have it, which I don't frequent all that often. because I actually am not a coffee drinker. So I did try the protein latte. I had it made with tea instead of coffee because I knew that if I had a coffee latte, I was going to not like it. And then it would have totally tainted the whole experience. And I would have told you how terrible it is. So no, I'm not a coffee drinker. Please don't hold that against me. I do enjoy caffeine. I have nothing wrong with caffeine. Don't let anybody tell you there's anything wrong with caffeine. But I definitely just prefer a cup of tea. So all that to say, found myself at a Tim Hortons out of the blue and decided, I was like, you know what? What a better time than to give this protein latte a try. So I want to back up a little bit first though, and, just talk a bit about the current trend in nutrition and how it is protein. Protein is hot, and protein has been a very hot, trendy thing for a couple of years now. We've seen a huge rise in protein products. We had protein bars for a long time, but then it started to be protein chips and protein cookies and protein bites and brownies and, obviously our shakes and protein granola bars and protein cereal, protein oatmeal. Like protein has been sort of added and become part of so many different foods. People are obsessed with it. The food industry is obsessed with it. It's, an easy thing to add as a value to your product, as a marketing tool for your product. Advertising how much protein is in your product is a great way to encourage consumers to buy it. You see that slapped on the front of so many different packages, how many grams of protein you're getting in this product. And it's, of course, anything that becomes a trending thing and becomes a hot thing will also become a hotly debated thing. And, I see, as much as I see people sharing the value of needing more protein and are you getting enough protein, prioritize protein and that sort of thing, I've seen equal number of people, whether that's health experts or like medical people in the field, maybe researchers, stuff like that. But I see a lot of people also setting on the side point of like, well, we don't really need all that much protein. It's silly to think that we need to be pumping ourselves full of protein all the time. And I'm sitting here recording this podcast for you as someone who is a nutrition expert in my field, worked in my field for a long time. I have studied nutrition. I know exactly how much protein people need, right? Like I can calculate for you based on a lot of different factors, right? This is your weight, your age, your gender, your activity level. There's lots of things that are going to influence, right? Body composition, lots of different things that are going to influence our requirement for protein. And day in and day out, a lot of my time is spent analyzing people's diets. And I can tell you two things, right? The first thing is that no, many of you are not getting enough protein in your diet. And that a lot of people are not getting enough protein at the right time of day. Now, I want to just kind of also say, and you probably know that, knowing me, knowing my podcast, I am working with people who are highly active, right? Athletes who need more protein than the general population. So protein requirements as a base number, like a number of grams per day, vary a lot based on, the biggest factor being your body weight, right? How much you weigh influences dramatically how much protein you need. The other thing is going to be your activity level. So I'm working with athletes. Some of these athletes are, higher weight. And so their protein needs are going to be a lot higher than maybe someone who is less active, not actively trying to build muscle mass, and maybe is a smaller framed individual. So, when we see people kind of talking about how, oh, we don't need all this much protein, or actually we need way more protein, well, it completely depends on the person we're talking about, the person we're talking to, and what is considered a lot or a little bit. Because for my athletes who are a lot smaller in terms of their body size, for them, getting 60 or 70 grams of protein per day might be plenty. 100 grams of protein per day for them might be 2 grams per kilogram of their body weight, right? Like that's a lot of protein. But for the next person who maybe weighs a lot more, that's like they're not even scraping the barrel on their needs with 100 grams of protein per day. We actually want them to be like 140, 150, maybe even 160 grams of protein per day. So there's a huge variation. Saying that something is a lot or a little bit is completely contextual. And it's where I think a lot of the confusion around protein comes from, is that, recommending that everyone get 150 grams a day. Well, that's not necessary or realistic, but also I'm not saying that nobody should be there. So that kind of brings us back to, the question of how much protein per day do we need to get, or should we get from things like protein shakes and protein bars, right? And again, you see this hotly debated thing all the time from different nutrition professionals or different fitness professionals and medical people and all of us that are out here doing this type of work, that you'll see some people who are like, oh, shakes and bars are great, or you need shakes and bars, maybe purchase my shakes and my bars, right? For whatever that's worth. And then on the other hand, you'll see people who say like shakes and bars are the worst and you should never consume them, and they're absolute garbage, trash food, a complete waste of money. You absolutely do not need and should not eat protein shakes and protein bars. And it's like so many things, like how, what's the right answer here? And of course, like all things in nutrition, the right answer is somewhere in the middle, right? Nothing is as good for you as the internet says it is, and nothing is as bad for you as the internet says it is. And so, depending on your specific protein requirement, which varies based on your activity level, varies based on your body size, we can even do a different type of calculation based on your lean body mass versus body fat percentage. So, depending on your body composition, we can even adjust protein targets. So yeah, depending on you as a person and so many other lifestyle factors, right? How much time you have to cook and prepare food, if you have limitations in your diet that prevent you from eating certain protein sources, right? Whether that's preferences or maybe food allergies or whatever it might be, there might be certain protein sources that you cannot consume or you do not consume, which might make a protein shake or a protein bar the best way for you to meet your goals in the world that we live in, right? Because we don't all sit at home all day just preparing food for ourselves, right? We have jobs, we have obligations, we have lives, we have things to do outside of just spending all of our time in the kitchen. And in a let's say in a quote unquote perfect world, right? Technically, you can get all of your protein from whole food sources. And no, we do not have a physiological necessity for protein shakes or protein bars. But at the same time, we also have to be realistic about where we spend our time and how we spend our time. And the idea that we're going to prepare every single thing that we eat from scratch every single day and that sort of thing, that requires a level of dedication and commitment and drive that you may or may not have. And I will go out and say is probably not necessary, and I'm talking about that. I'm saying this as a dietitian, right? Like I am someone who truly deep down believes in the value of good nutrition. I believe in people having cooking skills. I believe in people preparing food for themselves as much as they can. Like I'm not sitting here saying this as someone who like wants to actively encourage people to consume more protein shakes and protein bars and, protein added products. But I also know that I live in the real world just like the rest of us. And I have a protein shake almost every single day, right? Sometimes it takes me half the morning just to get it made and drank because I'm, chasing after my young kids all morning. But in order for me to get my protein target met, this is a way for me to do that. So yes, I do think that protein shakes, protein bars, products with added protein, there's so many out there. I think that they can be part of what they eat. And yes, you may find yourself relying on these sorts of protein products to get your goal met or get your needs met. But of course, there's a downside and there's going to be a tipping point where this is adding to the overall quality of your nutrition and adding to your ability to meet your goals nutritionally, performance-wise, body composition-wise. And there's going to be a tipping point where it detracts from that. And that's going to be unique to every individual, right? This is not going to be a one size fits all. Okay, if you're getting more than 30 or 40 grams of protein per day from these products, that's a bad thing. Or if you're getting, more than 80 grams of protein per day from those products, it's a bad thing. Like there is no specific tipping point. But what we have to understand is that the nutrients and the nutritional balance of protein shakes, protein bars, these types of things are limited. So there's a lot of variety in the micronutrients, the vitamins and minerals that we get from foods with protein. So generally speaking, foods with protein are going to be sources of anything from vitamin B12, calcium, iron, zinc, omega-3 fats, choline, just to name a few, other B vitamins, just to name a few. There are lots of other vitamins and minerals that we get from these foods that have protein in them. If we are replacing a large proportion, a big chunk of those foods with added protein, shakes, bars, etc., to the point where we are now lacking those vitamins and minerals, we might have trouble with our overall diet quality. And again, if we have a very high protein target, like let's say, for example, that a person's protein need is 150 grams per day of protein, right? That's a lot of protein. That can be hard to get just from whole food sources alone. You maybe are able to get, 100, 120 grams of protein from whole food sources, which means that chances are your requirement for those micronutrients is going to be met, right? You're getting enough protein from whole food sources that you can now meet your needs of the vitamins and minerals that I listed. And so then we're getting the supplemental protein. We're making up the difference. We're getting a bit more from the added sources, right? The shakes, the bars, etc. Because to add in more whole food sources of protein might be challenging, right? Logistically speaking, we might be kind of full. We're looking at bigger portions, hard to eat that. So to throw a shake in there and get an extra 30 grams from a shake, great, right? That makes sense. On the other hand, if we only need maybe 80 grams of protein a day, and we are only getting 40 or 50 grams of protein a day from whole food sources, that's where maybe we are lacking some of those nutrients. Or if maybe we're getting most of our protein from shakes and bars and that sort of thing, then the balance is missing, right? That overall balance of our dietary strategy is missing. If we're relying a lot on shakes, bars, things that don't have fiber, we also might have a hard time with fullness, right? We might not feel as full as if we had a solid meal, which if we need to meet a higher calorie intake, and this is one way to get there, that might be a good thing, right? We want things that aren't going to fill us up as much so we can get in more food. But if we are trying to be more mindful of our food intake and our calorie intake and be in a little bit of a calorie reduction, then that's where, these might be not helping, because it means that we are needing more calories in order to feel satisfied, because these shakes or these bars didn't fill us up enough. So we're missing something. So it's all very dependent person to person, very unique to you. And this is why getting nutrition advice and relying a lot on clips and videos and social media content as a whole for nutrition information and nutrition advice is really challenging, because you're going to watch maybe a very well-respected, very smart, very, very, well-rounded expert in the field. You're going to watch this clip of this person say something, and because they're well respected, because they know their stuff, they do research it, they definitely know what they're talking about. You see this little clip and they give an opinion on something. But that opinion might not apply to you or your situation or have anything to do with you and what they're two totally different things. And so nutrition strategy really needs to be personalized, and it really needs to be within the context of you and your goals and all of that. And so if you've been struggling with your nutrition, trying to cobble together a plan, but are feeling really confused because you're getting a bit of info from here, a bit of info from there, everyone's saying different things, more protein, less protein, does the timing matter? Does it not matter? Does the source matter? How do I put all this together? This is exactly what I help clients to do, both with my one-on-one coaching and inside the Fuel Train Recover Club. So if you are struggling, if you're listening to this episode and you're like, okay, Steph, this is great information, I appreciate it, I'm learning a lot, but what do I do? How do I figure out my protein goal? What is my protein need? What is the number that I should be aiming for every single day? That's exactly what I help people understand. So you can kind of cut out the noise, cut out the confliction, cut out the confusion, and just get really clear on what you need to be focusing on so you can actually move forward in meeting your goals. All right. So, of course, you can get more information about that, how we can work together, how I can help you at the link in the show notes. So, as I mentioned, I have a protein shake almost every single day. Big fan, easier for me to drink. Got it in my little shaker cup here. I don't know if you're watching this on video, you can see this thing is an old shaker cup. Like it's done its time, but it's great. And I think it's something that really helps me meet my nutrition goals. And it's something that I just think is a great fill in to help me. I still am very, I still eat my 3 meals a day, include protein with my snacks and all of that wonderful stuff. But the extra protein shake, I do think is really helpful, helps me get some more nutrients. I mix it with milk, so I'm getting in my calcium and everything too. So when I went to go try this Tim Hortons protein latte, I was going into Tim Hortons, not really like I wasn't necessarily planning on getting this protein latte when I went there. And the reason why is because I thought it was going to be like some kind of protein powder. Like I imagined that it was going to be some sort of powdered protein product. They were going to be making this like latte. I thought it was going to be bad. Like I thought it was going to be bad. What you need to know is that as much as I am an advocate for doing what works for you, using protein shakes and bars and things like that where it makes sense and where it nutritionally supports your goals, I am not a huge fan of a lot of protein powders. I think a lot of them taste bad. I think a lot of them have bad textures. I think a lot of them, in this beautiful year of 2025, how have we not figured out how to make a protein powder not chunky when I mix it? Try to make a hot beverage with protein powder. It's a monstrosity. So I didn't go in with high hopes, but I was like, okay, I got to give this a good old fashioned try. I'm going to record a podcast. I better have at least given it a go. So it's not actually protein powder. This is what surprised me. Is not made with protein powder. What they do is they're actually just making this protein latte with the high protein filtered milk. And these high protein filtered milk products are something that I've actually been recommending to my clients for years now, ever since they came on the market and I found them. I don't know how many years it's been now, but I've been suggesting these products to a lot of people for a really long time. So what they do is they take regular old cow's milk and they filter it. And what they do in that filtration process is they actually keep the protein. And so it concentrates and increases the protein in the milk, but removes a lot of the sugar and some of the nutrients as well, but they refortify and add some things back in. So you then have a higher protein, lower sugar milk that is not a protein powder or like manipulated in any way other than it just being filtered. The couple things I really love about these milk products, you can just buy these at the grocery store. Like this is not something that you have to get. You don't have to go to Tim Hortons to buy this. Like you can buy this at the grocery store and you can make this for yourself at home. So from a cost perspective, like if you usually make your own coffee at home and you do things like lattes and stuff on your own, like just buy this milk and just make your own latte at home using this high filtered milk. You'll save a ton of money. A couple things I like about it, obviously the nutrition, the taste, because it's just cow's milk, right? So there's no different flavor, no different texture, nothing weird about it. But the shelf life is fantastic. So in that filtration process, I don't work, in and around the dairy industry or in the food processing industry enough to know exactly how this works. But in doing this filtration step or something, this milk now has a much longer shelf life. So I also really like it, not just for people who want a bit more protein in places where they would already be using cow's milk, but also if you are someone who doesn't actually go through a whole lot of milk, you tend to not really buy milk because you don't use it and it goes bad. This is a great option for you because you get a much longer shelf life out of just buying this container of milk. So anyway, that's what they're using, is just a filtered milk product, one that you can basically just buy at the store. So I got a tea latte, and this tea latte that I had, I believe it had 12 grams of protein in it. I got a medium. So 12 grams of protein in my tea latte. And honestly, it tasted great, right? And why wouldn't it? Because it wasn't some kind of like weird protein powder thing that they're trying to do. It was just this added milk. I did find though that it tasted sweeter than I was expecting. So I don't know if they did add like a pump of sweetened syrup to it. I'm not sure, because the milk itself doesn't contain any added sugar. So the medium that I ordered should have had 9 grams of natural sugars from the milk. So the filtration process reduces the sugar, but does not completely eliminate the sugar. So it would have had 9 grams of natural sugar according to the milk, which in my opinion wouldn't taste as sweet as it did. So I don't know if there was syrup added to it. When you look on the Tim Hortons website, obviously that's like an add-on that you would ask for. I don't know. When I was ordering it, there was a little bit of confusion over like the tea latte and, do you want it hot or cold? And how do you, it wasn't the easiest thing to order. So if there was a little bit of extra added sugar in there, that's totally fine. But yeah, so really, I have to say that I am pleasantly surprised with this product. It's simple. It's straightforward. It's not different. Like it's different than a lot of the products that I've reviewed in this sort of category of like, new thing that a restaurant rolls out, has a bunch of kind of health claims around it, has a bunch of, sort of marketing stuff around it that when you really peel back the curtain, like it just doesn't hold up. It just isn't legit. Like, as I mentioned, the real fruit smoothie, and things of that nature. And so, I really was pleasantly surprised here. And I do think that it's a relatively good option. Like if you're looking for an easy way to get those extra, 10, 15 grams of protein in per day, you're going to Tim Hortons, you're getting a latte anyway, then why not get it made with the higher protein milk and just go ahead and get it in like that. But like I said, this milk product is something that you can just buy at the grocery store. So you can make this yourself. You can use these milk products yourself in a number of different places, say in a bowl of cereal or in cooking, in baking, anywhere that you can use milk, you can use this. So yeah, I like I said, I was pleasantly surprised. I didn't mind this one. I might have one again one day. This may not be a one and done for me. I unfortunately don't actually remember how much I paid for it. Might have been around $5. So I don't know if it's something that I would be having every single day, at $5 a pop. But something that I didn't dislike, and I hope that if you give it a try, you enjoy it too. This is also, these protein lattes are being rolled out at lots of different coffee shops and places. This has definitely been a hot new fall item for this year. I don't know, of course, if all of them are going to be using the same product or the same type of milk product. You'd have to kind of look into it and see, sort of what's being used. Don't just trust me that it's all the same. But because it's just such a simple swap, especially for the suppliers of these restaurants, they're buying milk anyway, right? They have milk in stock anyway in their restaurant. So just use this instead of the other one. My guess is that's probably what they're going to be doing, but you can always look into it and see. If you have any questions, let me know. All right. So that is it for this week's episode. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope you were as surprised as I was. And, maybe this gave you a new favorite thing to get when you are stopping at Tim Hortons over the fall and winter this year. And of course, as I mentioned before, if you are really feeling stuck with your nutrition, you're looking for some realistic advice that is personalized to your goals, cuts out the confusion, cuts out the generalness, and really just gives you clarity and reassurance, and gives you confidence in your nutrition strategy so that you have some that is going to work for you, that you can follow and get the results that you're looking for. Because when you are confident in a plan, you believe the plan is going to work for you, you're on the right track with things, you're going to stick with it a lot longer, right? Have you ever tried a new trend, a new diet, a new whatever, and you do it for a bit, but you're not really sure? You're like, oh, this doesn't really feel right. How long are you going to stick with it, right? But when you're working with an expert like myself, when you're working with someone who knows nutrition to the depth that I do, and I can personalize and discuss your goals and create a plan for you that really works, this is something that's going to be far more sustainable, and you're going to be able to stick with it for a lot longer. So if you're looking for help in this area, I would love to work with you. I currently have enrollment open inside my online program, the Fuel Train Recover Club. With this, you not only get expert coaching from me, you also get personalized meal planning recommendations. So meals, recipes, ideas that are personalized to you and your goals, delivered to you on our meal tracking and planning app. And of course, I also have one-to-one coaching spots available for this fall if you're looking to take things to the next level with your nutrition, really want to understand your needs right down to your genes. Then that is part of my one-on-one coaching option. So you can find the details about all of that on my website. That will be in the show notes, www.stephanienatchek.com. All right, that's it for this week's episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. It was wonderful chatting with you today, and we will see you right back here for next week's episode. Bye for now. The information on this podcast is for educational purposes only and is not to be used or relied upon for diagnosis or treatment of any health condition. This information does not create a client-practitioner relationship and should not be used as a substitute for professional medical advice.